nothing but the dog in me.
Why must I chase the cat?
Good evening and welcome to Posse Presents. Tonight I am pleased to welcome back Amy Harrell from Connecticut Votes for Animals. Amy, thank you so much for joining me again tonight.
Thank you for having me. It's always fun.
It's a pleasure to have you. You do so much for the animals, and certainly I know I appreciate what you do, and I know a lot of other people do, and most of all the animals certainly stand to benefit from what you're doing. For those who are not familiar or need a refresher, tell everybody what Connecticut Votes for Animals is and what you do.
So Connecticut Votes for Animals is basically the voice for animals at our state capital. Lots of people do a lot of really important and outstanding work rescuing animals. We sort of have a counterpart to that by addressing the legislative side of animal welfare. So what we do is every legislative session, which runs every spring, we go to the Capitol and we help propose legislation that would benefit animals, and we also fight against laws that would potentially be harmful. So we've done this for about 2008, so it's been 6 or 7 years now. And we also do some other programs such as educating people on what the current laws are. We develop important communication networks with groups like animal control officers who see firsthand what the problems are. And we work with other state agencies and legislators to make sure that animals have the protections they need at the Capitol.
And of course you depend on the public support, people to get involved, whether they're voters or not. I think we covered that the last time. To get involved, to write letters, to make phone calls, to vote for the people who are on our side, so to speak. So it's a collaborative effort. You lead the way, and you need people to get involved in whatever way that you can.
Right.
And
right. So it really is, I mean, we can, as you say, sort of facilitate things. We can help lead the way. But it's really up to Connecticut residents to speak up and contact their legislators. Ideally, everybody does vote, right? Everybody's registered. Of course, yes. Ideally, everyone votes. Yeah, you can register to vote very easily. Yeah. But
even if you don't, you still have a voice.
Yes, yes. It's still worth contacting your legislator and making sure they understand that you care about animals. That is really the most important component about advocacy for animals at the Capitol.
And usually, you know, some people are like, oh, I don't know what to say, I wouldn't know what to do. You usually have a template, very easy. People can copy and paste, insert their information. You make it painless to get involved, to send that letter, to send that email, which, you know, so that there becomes no excuses for stepping up and doing what has to be done. I mean, you can beat your head against the wall all day long at the Capitol, but unless everybody gets on board, nothing is ever going to change.
Right. They don't really care a whole lot what I say.
Right.
They want to care. They want to hear what you have to say.
Right.
And what other what voters and residents in Connecticut have to say about an issue. So yes, we do try to make it painless. Just copy paste our suggested script, send it off, and you're good.
Yeah, and you know, it's as easy as that, folks. So there are no excuses, you know, to see something that you wish would happen or to see something that you wish would change. You can wish all day long until you do something, until you get involved. It's not going to change. Again, Amy in Connecticut Votes for Animals makes it very simple. They outline it, they go to bat for all these things, but without your support, it's all for naught, unfortunately.
That's right.
So you are working on a number of things currently, and we're going to cover 3 of the things that are kind of the hot topics right now.
Yes.
The first being House Bill 5361, which would stop breed discrimination by insurance companies.
Yes. So we've got, I think, a little less than 3 weeks left of the session. So If this doesn't get passed by June 3rd, that's it. It's done. We have to start all over again next year. So what House Bill 5361 would do is stop insurance companies from discriminating against bully breeds. So your pit bulls, Rottweilers, German Shepherds, Bulldogs, Boxers, all those breeds that have earned a bad reputation and an unjustified bad reputation for biting people. As we all know, there are no bad dogs, there are only bad owners. So these poor dogs are being punished by the insurance companies for their reputations. And so what that means is people who have a pit bull or a bulldog have a much harder time finding homeowners insurance or renters insurance because of the dog they have. And then, of course, what that leads to is people who go to their local shelters looking for dogs to adopt will often pass right on by these poor loving pit bulls because they're afraid they won't be able to get insurance.
Or worse yet, they say, oh, my insurance won't cover my dog, so I'm going to give up my dog.
Right.
And it gluts the
Right.
shelter system.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what was 3 days ago a dog that was happy and loved in its home
Yeah.
is now waiting to die in a pound.
Right.
And so that's just, it's not right by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
And as you were saying, it's not just the bully breeds, it's not just the pit bulls. You'd be surprised at some of the dogs, and I did some research. As we said, Bulldogs, German Shepherds, Rottweilers, Dobermans, Akitas, Chows, Huskies, Great Danes, Boxers, Mastiffs, St. Bernards, and an animal nobody should have anyway, the wolf hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a long list of great dogs that
Yeah.
are being unfairly punished. And so we're really fighting this this session. We have a strong legislative champion, Representative Brenda Kupchak from Fairfield is fighting to get this passed. Yeah, so we're really hoping to get somewhere. We've tried bringing up with legislators that, you know, there are a lot of things that you could use as a factor in homeowners insurance or renters insurance. Bite history, for example.
I was-
Has the dog actually bitten anybody?
Yeah.
That would be a reason to raise someone's premiums.
Exactly.
Likewise,
And that's usually documented if it's been
Yes.
severe enough.
Yes. Also, the living conditions of the dog. Statistics do show definitively that if you have a dog that is relatively unsocialized and lives its life outside in the backyard, chained to a tree all the time, the dog is far more likely to bite.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are lots of other factors that insurance companies could use. Dog breed should not be one of them.
No, and I'm sure that you could even get a veterinary reference.
Yes.
You know, there could be a
Yes.
form letter that a vet could fill out. You know, do you feel the dog is a threat? You know, how is the dog's temperament? You know, a vet is going to give you a clinical answer. Not, you know, well, it's my dog and I love it and, you know, it's going to be fine. And the next minute, you know,
Right,
something horrible happens.
Right.
And there's too many obstacles, I think, for people who want to keep their dogs and to have the
Right.
homeowners insurance.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
or the renter's insurance.
Yeah.
And it does. It causes people to not adopt particular breeds, as you said, and it causes people to give up their dogs, and it's just a lose-lose situation. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah. So House Bill 5361, really hoping to get that
Yeah.
passed.
And so if anybody wants to put in their 2 cents at this point, they still can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you go to the Connecticut Votes for Animals Facebook page,
Oh, yeah.
it's all right there for you.
Yes.
One of the other things that you are working on is something, again, I wrote an article that covered the insurance aspect of it, and I did talk about this next part, House Bill 6955, which prohibits the sale of ivory and rhino horn. By allowing the sale of that in the state, we are basically enabling the killing of these animals.
That's right.
And so for us not to participate, it has an impact.
Right.
It really does. And, you know, while people get, I think, more emotionally involved and emotionally charged over, you know, their domestic animals, these are majestic wild animals that are not pets, but certainly have a place on this earth.
Yes, definitely. Elephants that, yeah, I mean, elephants in this whole issue of banning the sale of ivory is certainly not one of our mainstream issues. It's not a typical issue that we take on, but it's important because elephants are really reaching a crisis point in terms of poaching numbers. They die at 96 elephants per day. You've probably seen statistics like that.
The pictures
they're gruesome.
horrible.
Don't Google it. It's really, it's very, very sad.
I've seen stuff. I wish I could bleach it out of my brain, and I can't.
Yeah. It really is a very wicked, horrible industry.
They don't just saw off the tusks, folks. They it's not
and elephant tusks don't just sort of drop out and the elephant can live.
Yeah, they don't shed them.
Elephant tusks are not shed.
Yeah,
it results in orphaned elephants. And one of the other sides to this is that money from poached elephants often goes directly to fund terrorist groups. So you may recall in the news a few weeks ago, there have been a couple times this spring. There have been incidents in Africa I want to say it was Kenya. There was violence in malls, mass shootings. There was one recently of students. It's the Al-Shabaab terrorist group, and they get a lot of their money directly from poached ivory sales. So,
and who even would think to make that connection?
Yeah,
you know?
But they do. And I know, we think Africa is such a long ways away. What can we possibly do about this? But the fact is that the United States is only right behind China in terms of the largest market for ivory products. And the way it's coming here into the United States is it's being disguised as antiques. So it's very, very easy for traffickers to disguise a piece of ivory if it's already worked. For example, it's like a sculpture or a trinket or something. They can sort of stain or tint the ivory to make it look old. And as long as they can demonstrate or make it look like it was imported,
fresh,
imported before about 1989, I believe, then they can sell it. And so they sell it to unsuspecting customers. And that it drives the price of ivory right up there. And as long as we have a market in the United States and in Connecticut for ivory products, the elephants will continue to be slaughtered.
Yeah, and you made the valid point of if there's no market for it,
right,
the price is irrelevant and it becomes something nobody's interested in doing, is trafficking the ivory.
Yeah.
And it's not just the elephants, it's the rhinos as well.
I just read an article actually that that poachers are looking to raise their poaching efforts this and kill even more rhinos than they did last year. So they're expecting the rhino killings to continue to be on the rise.
And these are animals that don't bother anybody. They're
very loving.
Yeah,
they form very close bonds.
If you don't know anything about elephants, if you don't know anything about rhinos, they're feeling, they're intelligent, they're amazing creatures that just, they don't, by any stretch of the imagination, deserve just to be wiped out.
Right.
They're not pests, they're not a threat, they're nothing to fear, they're nothing to hate, they're just trying to live. And as you said, there's orphans, they're breaking up families, and they are very family-oriented animals.
Very.
They feel their relationship so closely. It's terrorizing them in addition to wiping them out.
Yes. Yeah.
And so there is an amendment now to the bill, and it's 7261. And
Yes.
what does the amendment do to this process?
What the amendment does is it strengthens the wording in the underlying bill, so that it would make our law consistent with what New York passed last year. New York State has also passed a bill, passed a law against the sale of ivory and rhino horn. New Jersey has as well. The bill that we currently have in the works would not be as strong as New Jersey's, but it would be nearly identical to New York's language. And that's what we're going for. We need that consistency across states so that enforcement is easier.
Right.
So the amendment would strengthen the current language to bring it more consistent with New York State. In particular, it would make it a little more difficult to sell antique ivory. It would allow the sale of antique pieces, such as like a wooden desk, or a chest, or sculpture, as long as ivory is only a small part of that. So if you have a desk that has like ivory knobs,
Right.
that's not really, we're not going to find poached ivory and knobs, you know.
Right.
So the sale of those pieces would be fine. But if you have a piece that is made of 100% ivory, even if it's an antique, even if it's 100 years old, it's too easy to fake that kind of thing.
Right.
So the amendment would stamp out the sale of those as well. And it's important to know that that the antique dealers really are coming out in opposition against this.
Of course, it's going to hurt their business.
It's going to hurt their business. But equally significant is that some of the museums have tight relationships with the antique dealers.
And it's all about
so
business, folks.
It's all about the money,
Yeah.
really. And so many of the museums are also opposing this amendment because they're trying to protect their antique dealers.
Of course.
So that's why it's even more important for people to speak in favor of this bill, to ask your representative to support House Bill 6955 as amended by 7261.
And there is, again, the information on your Facebook page.
Right, or on our website too.
Or, yeah, we're going to give
I'll
out.
make
we're
sure
gonna
our
give that
website
out
is
too.
more up to date too. Make sure that has all the current information on it too.
But you know, if you need the visual, if you need to read up a little more, beyond what Amy is telling you, just go to the Facebook page. It's all right there. And I actually, before airtime, I shared all 3 posts onto the
Okay, great.
Posse Presents and my
Oh, good.
personal page, just so people would have a little bit of a reference, if they wanted to look it up.
Good.
Okay, so the next thing that we are talking about is, in my opinion, ridiculous. Certain things should not be taxed, and there is a proposal to tax veterinary services.
Yes. So,
And that is so far-reaching.
It is.
Excuse me.
It's pretty ridiculous.
It's very far-reaching. It'll have a very widespread effect. It'll affect low-income people. It'll affect independent rescuers who pay out of their pocket to help animals, and anyone who goes to the vet. As I said to you on the phone, I remember when they started taxing labor, like when you go get your car fixed or you have work done, and that was crazy enough. But to tax veterinary services, let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, if you've been following anything, the chaos going up at the Capitol now, you know that the budget is a really big issue this session. Of course, it's a big issue every session, but this year, apparently the disagreements are especially bad between Republicans and Democrats. The economic situation is such that that it's very difficult to balance the budget, and I absolutely have a lot of respect for the challenges inherent on balancing the budget. I mean, they're trying to maintain some really crucial services, social services for people, and at the same time, the question is, where do they get the money? I guess where I would draw the line is at medical services, and veterinary services are a medical service that it's not a discretionary thing. There were several services actually that they're proposing to tax. Among them, there were also accounting, dry cleaning, interior design,
Golfing.
golf club membership. These things I can see taxing. Veterinary medical services, this is a matter of life and death. This is an animal's health.
Yeah,
It's
usually
about,
you're struggling, most people are struggling to pay the vet bill, and now you're going to throw taxes on it.
Right.
And it just doesn't make sense. Like you said, you have to consider a medical service.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do they tax you to go to your own doctor? Why would you do that to the animals? And what really happens then, I mean, the state pays for medical services too, you know? Of course, you're not subject to it if you are a nonprofit.
Right.
So that the actual rescues and shelters are going to be exempt, but everybody else is going to be screwed.
Yeah. And
To
there are
put
a
it-
lot of, yeah, and I mean, they will be. And there are a lot of good Samaritans out there who you know, come upon an animal in distress. It's not necessarily their own, and decide, you know, that it needs medical attention and take it right away to a local veterinarian. We shouldn't be punishing those people with an additional
No.
sales tax.
There are plenty of people who, you know, deal with the feral cats. You know, they trap them, they bring them to be
Oh, yeah. Those are a
taken
lot of
care of
out-of-pocket expenses.
and released again or adopted if they're friendly. Those people are going to suffer. The people who independently will pull an animal from a pound before its last day and decide that they'll foster it and they'll sponsor it, those people are going to be paying more. I mean, there's going to be really hardly any incentive to be the good person that you've been being, because you're going to be paying more. And a lot of people struggle to do what they do out of the goodness of their heart.
Right.
It's just going to make it so much worse for the animals. It really is.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and then
The
again,
animals definitely lose in this one.
yeah, and then you know, the person who all of a sudden has a medical emergency for their animal and can barely afford to bring
Right.
it to the vet is just going to get socked that much harder. And it's not like the vet's going to say, all right, well, you know, I'll back the bill down to cover the tax, because, you know.
Because they're a business too. I mean,
Exactly.
veterinarians, you know, they're a service. They need to have an income. You know, they can't be in the business of providing so much charity. You
Yeah,
know? I mean,
they
there are a
can't
lot
start-
of wonderful vets out there
Yeah.
who will work with people on billing and such, but that's not a solution. So
No.
yeah, it's going to be your seniors, low-income people who struggle to pay veterinary bills as it is. With a sales tax that just brings that price up even more, we may see some animals getting surrendered
Yeah.
to shelters.
Yeah, that's going to be another reason why the shelters will be glutted with animals, you know, who are sick and now abandoned.
Right.
You know, and the only thing that's going to happen to them is that the shelter is going to put them down, because they're not going to pay to save
Right.
the animals. So it's another lose-lose situation. And I'm just thinking here from a business standpoint, veterinarians are going to have to start doing sales and use taxes, and I've done
It's
those.
more complicated for them.
Yeah.
They don't need that hassle.
No, sales and use
Yeah.
tax is no picnic, trust me.
Yeah.
Been there, done that. Anyway, if anyone is interested in getting involved, getting in the trenches with you, you are always open to volunteers. And tell us what some of the things, because we are sort of got a few minutes, tell us some of the things that volunteers can do for you.
Well, I mean, one of the things that really is most basic is just, as we've been mentioning throughout the program, is just contacting your legislators. Find out who your legislators are, and by that I mean state legislators. There's often a lot of focus, a lot of media attention and press to your Congress people or the president. But you know what? It's at the state level where so much more legislation actually happens. That's been proven. We get far more done in terms of bills passed at the state level than they do at the congressional level. So find out who your state legislators are. Get to know them. Sign up for email alerts. Go and attend office hours. Many of them hold office hours. Let them get to know you and know that you care about animals.
And the way that they can find out, there is a website.
Yes.
You type in your zip code and your street address, and it'll tell you.
Yep. You go to cga.ct.gov.
And that's
So,
always on your Facebook page, too.
yes, it is. There is a button on our Facebook page and on our website for Find Your Legislator.
So it's not hard.
It is not hard.
It's really easy.
So that's
you
the
can
thing.
do
Get
it.
to know your legislator. Second of all, we are an all-volunteer organization. So we do rely on volunteers to help us raise money. We're looking for people who have some maybe development experience, but even broader than development, people who know how to get the word out and recruit more members. to just spread the word and develop our organization. We also need people who have some experience with press and media, and as you do. But so more people like Theo would be great. So people who can help us, for instance, make contacts with the press, maybe with television shows. We're always looking to have, it's so important to have those connections. If we can just get our members in front of the television camera, that can really, really help our cause.
And so you have a meeting, you do have meetings from time to time where people can come and check you out and talk and ask their questions. Your next one is on May 27th in Manchester.
Yes.
And that is also on your Facebook page.
Yes. It's at the Our Companions Program Center in Manchester. So yeah, it's on our Facebook page if you look for that.
Yeah, and that's, everybody's welcome, and just, come on down. If anybody wants to contact you, let's throw out all of your contact information.
So my email is amy.cva, for Connecticut Votes for Animals, @gmail.com. So amy.cva@gmail.com. And then we also have a website. You can find a lot of this information on our website as well, ctvotesforanimals.org.
And you guys have a newsletter?
Do we have a newsletter? We'd love to have a regular newsletter.
You have emails.
We have email alerts.
Well, emails.
We have
All right, email alerts.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I'm saying newsletter.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
All right, because I get your emails.
We'll call it a newsletter.
Yeah, call it a newsletter. Call it a newsletter and humor
newsletter.
me.
Yeah.
But you can sign up for email alerts for anything that's pressing
Regular
or needs
email
action.
updates. Yep.
So that's another thing that's a no-brainer. And the Facebook page, Connecticut Votes for Animals, which I keep hawking because, I'm like the Facebook person, like crazy.
Yeah.
Excuse
Everything's
me.
on Facebook.
Yeah, everything's Facebook, social media. It's crazy, I'm sure that your Facebook page probably gets more traffic than even your website, just because people are social media crazy.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Amy, thank you so much.
you're very welcome.
It was a pleasure
Thank you
to
for
have
having
you.
me.
It's my pleasure. Anytime.
All
We're
right.
going to say goodnight. Here's the credits. We're going to say peace, love, and dogs. Thank you very much for watching. And Amy, really, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
It was great. It was fun.
Come back anytime.